Hey everyone, this is Eve Parker here. How are you all doing today? I'm really excited about the topic we're going to be discussing, which is going to be the topic of sex positivity, what it is, what it isn't, and how you can become more sex positive in your everyday life, and why sex positivity is so important nowadays. So, what is sex positivity? Sex positivity, the definition has definitely been evolving for a really long time now. But I have included several different types of definitions that are really clear and concise that I wanted to include in this video. So, the first one being is that at the core, sex positivity is an acknowledgement and understanding that sex and sexuality are all very diverse, and there isn't one clear way of defining what normal sex is. Sex positivity is also being able to freely, without judgment, shame, or blame, being able to ask questions, discuss topics with either friends, with family, with your children, with your partners, being able to ask questions about safety and about being able to receive and get the proper information and dispelling all those rumors and myths and all that sex negativity that comes with having misinformation via friends, family, school, media also. So being able to have a safe space and a safe place to be able to discuss different topics like safe sex and condoms and barriers, and being able to go to a clinic and discuss about your body safety, and being able to talk and freely ask questions without feeling like someone's judging you. Another thing about sex positivity is that it includes all sexual activity that's all with boundaries established, consensual acts of sexuality. It's a celebration. Sex positivity is a celebration of all kinds of sexualities. Whether a person is into the kink scene, if someone is asexual, if someone is gay, straight, it doesn't matter what spectrum you are. It's all included in sexual, in sex positivity. It's included in, it's all part of the sexual spectrum of human sexuality. And making sure that, someone could be someone who's really, really into sex, and if someone is asexual, and passing judgment onto somebody like that, that identifies in that way, is not being sex positive. So it's being able to celebrate and understand that all kinds of sexualities, not one sexuality or spectrum of sexuality is more important or less important, or more in the spectrum of sex positivity or less in the spectrum of sex positivity. It's also being able to tear down those like sexual negativity ideas that sex is dirty or something to hide or something to be shameful about. Sex is part of our birthright as a human being. As long as everything is all established with boundaries and consensual and safe and legal, all of that is completely valid and beautiful, and we all need to respect one another and understand that not everyone is going to dig what you dig, and there's different strokes for different folks, as they say. So having an understanding and not being judgmental about those type of things, that's what being sex positive is all about. It's also becoming more aware, teaching yourself, learning about other people's sexualities, learning about sexuality in general, learning about how to set boundaries for yourself. It's about, having choices and making sure that you respect other people's boundaries and their choices as well. And it can go on and on, but I feel like that's like sort of a basic premise. It's just making sure that you acknowledge that other people people's sexualities may differ from your own, and that there is no such thing as what normal sex is, and everyone has their own sort of definition. But at the end of the day, it's making sure that we celebrate all of our diversity in terms of sexuality and just diversity in general, and making sure also another very important one is to be sex positive doesn't mean that we're invalidating anyone who has gone through some severe sexual traumas, or someone who may not even like sex, or someone who may be fearful of sex, or whatever the case may be. Being sex positive is not trying to invalidate those types of people and their experiences. We all need to collectively support one another. So if you know somebody who, we're going through different types of paths in our lives, and we're all, you can only meet people where they are at. So not forcing your sex positivity down someone's throat if they're not at that level yet, but we still also need to respect those who are overcoming traumas or dealing with sex negativity and trying to figure out their own way and their own path in life. And not everyone's there with body positivity and all that stuff. Someone may genuinely hate themselves or hate sex, or whatever the case may be. So we need to honor and we need to respect that there are people out there that have had traumatic experiences, and that being sex positive is not invalidating their experiences. We need to support one another, because at the end of the day, that's all part of the spectrum of sex positivity. So with that being said, what sex positivity, what it isn't, like pretty much, like what, there's a lot of different types of stereotypes and connotations when it comes to sex positivity. And so if someone is claiming that they're sex positive, yet they are judging somebody else just because they find their sex or their experiences to be weird or out there, that's not being sex positive. That's being judgmental about someone else's sexuality, which can be very, very harmful, and not trying to put someone into a box. That also can be very extremely harmful, and it's not helpful, and it's definitely not sex positive. Another one, for a lot of people think that because somebody is sex positive, that they are down to do everything and anything related to sex. That is definitely not the case. We need to respect people who, if you're into fisting, awesome. If you're into threesomes, awesome. If you love going to sex parties and all that, but also too, if you're celibate, if you're abstaining, if you are asexual, if you are a monogamous person, if you are a vanilla person, it doesn't matter what spectrum you are in. All of that is valid, all that's wonderful, but a lot of people get the idea in their head that they think that because someone's sex positive, that they are down to do everything, that they are without boundaries. Everyone has their boundaries. Everyone has, consent, enthusiasm, consent to sexual acts. If you're not getting that, that is not consenting. Just because someone's sex positive doesn't mean they're down to do everything in the spectrum of sexuality. And also on another note, just because someone is sex positive doesn't necessarily mean that they love sex or are into sex. They could be asexual, they may not even like sex, but as long as they're respecting other people who do, that is being a sex positive person. So no, just because someone is a sex positive person doesn't mean that, there are a lot of people out there that can try to manipulate someone into trying to coerce them into having sex with them and use the guise of, oh, well, I'm sex positive, or I thought you were sex positive, so I thought you would be into everything. No, someone who's sex positive still has boundaries for themselves just like any other person. The thing is that they respect all spectrums and diversity of sexuality. What else? What is another thing that people have a connotation of people with sex? Another huge one. I know that being part of sex positivity is being able to be open about different types of topics when it comes to sexuality, and not having code language or whispering or feeling shameful about talking about these things. But on the other hand, in the other spectrum, you definitely need to make sure that before talking about your body or talking about any of your sexual experiences, it doesn't matter if there's a room filled with sex positive people, you need to check in and make sure it's okay to talk about your body, simply by asking, is it okay if I talk about my body? Is it okay if I talk about this sexual experience? Because you don't know who's in the room. You don't know if someone may have experienced a traumatic experience in relation to the topic you're about to discuss, or it might be triggering for some people. So being sex positive is also having an awareness and respect for other people's boundaries, that even though someone may be sex positive, there may be a few topics that someone may not be comfortable talking to you about, or they may just not be comfortable talking to you specifically about it. Don't take it personally, just have respect and make sure that you ask. And if they give you consent, hey, yeah, sure, you can definitely talk about it, then talk about it. But if they say no, then move on with a different topic, or if you're in a group of people and one person wants to talk about it, move away from everybody else who doesn't want to talk about these things. Move to another room, whatever the case may be, go outside. Again, it's not shaming a person that's open and willing to want to talk about their experiences, but we also need to be more aware that there are some people who just don't want to discuss and talk about certain elements about sex, because again, they may have had a traumatic experience. They may not be knowledgeable about it or uncomfortable talking about it. Again, don't take it too personally. Again, you can only meet people where they're at, so you don't want to be forcing stories down people's throats if they're not consenting to listening to it. So I'm curious about what ways you all define sex positivity, and what ways do you find sex positivity to be not, or do you feel like, sometimes people have a skewed, warped idea of what sex positivity should look like or be like? I would love to hear your comments and your input down below on the comments section. So how can someone be more sex positive? So I would say that definitely to be more sex positive, there's so many different ways of doing it. Talk to other people who are sex positive. There's tons of resources online. Reading books about all different types of sexualities, so you get more of a broader sense of what kind of sexualities are out there, people's experiences. Because even though you may not be into a particular thing, having knowledge about it just makes you overall better person, because you have a more broader understanding of all different kinds of sexualities. So I have written down a few books that I would definitely recommend. I would recommend Opening Up, A Guide to Creating and Sustaining Open Relationships by Tristan Taormino. Girl Sex 101 by Allison Moon. Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And Trans Bodies, Trans Selves by Laura Erickson Schoth. I hope I didn't mess up those last names, but I would definitely recommend. That's a really great starting point. It gives you a good wide spectrum to learn about trans people, to learn about open relationships, to learn the basic 101s about sexuality, about masturbation and all that stuff, and learning about the gift of orgasm. So I would definitely recommend those. I would also recommend going to a sex positive adult sex shop like Babeland, or I would go to Good Vibrations. I would check out Pleasure Chest. If you just Google sex positive sex shops in my area, you'll definitely be able to find resources online, and those websites also have really great how-tos or questions that people may have asked. They have really great resources. Planned Parenthood is also a really great resource to learn more about sex and sexuality and safety and all that wonderful stuff. And I would also recommend going to an sex convention or sex education expo. If you just Google sex expo or sex education convention, a town near me, you'll be able to find different things. They have awesome ones in New York, Atlanta, California. Just look it up. The internet is wonderful for those resources. And so with that being said, I'm so happy that you guys have been checking out my channel. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me through private message, or you can email me at eparker sexeducator@gmail.com. You can contact me through Instagram as well. You can find me at eParkerSexEducator as well, and you can DM me on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter as well, so you can find me on there as well. This channel is all about integrating and connecting the mind, body, and spirit, so you feel more connection with all those wonderful elements of yourself to have a much more enriching and better life. So with that being said, please hit the subscribe button, the bell notification to be notified for all my future videos. Thank you so much for checking out this channel, and I will check you out in the next